when we come to the question and answer section. So you can utilize the WhatsApp number +251 94 550 2310. +251 94 550 2310. Alternatively, you can come through live or use the question and answer section. My name is Wayne Musabayana. I'm Head of Communication at the African Union Commission. It's a pleasure to be with you as always. And now it's time for me to introduce the Africa CDC Director, Dr. John Kengasong, for his...
Let me have some water.
Dr. John, you have the floor.
No, thank you, Wayne. And a very good morning to all the colleagues on the platform. Excuse me, as usual, it's always a pleasure to be with all of you on this very important briefing. Today, it's always, I will do three things: give you an update on the epidemiological situation on the continent, what we are currently doing, and then, of course, end with the vaccine situation. As of today, 28th of October, a total of 8.4 million people have been infected in Africa with the COVID-19 virus. Of that number, 218,000 have unfortunately died, and that represents a case fatality ratio of 2.66%. The total number of deaths reported, that is 218,000, represents 4.4% of the global total. As we've discussed previously, the continent, as we also indicate, is going down the slope, which means that we are flattening the curve now more steadily. But as we speak, we should always remember that 45 countries, that is 82% of our member states, have gone through the third wave. And 7 countries, Algeria, Benin, Egypt, Kenya, Mauritius, Somalia, and Tunisia, are experiencing the fourth wave. So it just shows you that we'll continue to go from wave to wave unless we fully address the issue of vaccination and as a means to blunt the spread of this virus or the spread of the virus. The variants continue to move on. We have, as we speak, 45 countries have reported the Alpha variant, 40 countries are reporting the Beta variant, and 41 countries are currently reporting the Delta variant. No new member state has reported the Delta variant since the last time we spoke on this platform. Let us now look at the trends. We'll first of all look at the 1 week trend, compare this week against last week, and then look at 4 weeks trend. As of today, the week of what we call the epidemiological week 42, that is the week spanning between 18th of October to 24th of October, compared to the epidemiological week 41, which is the week spanning 11th to 17th of October. We have recorded 31,000 new cases. This represents an average decrease of 26% since the last week, which is a good sign. We really hope that these trends continue and is also maintained. However, we have 5 countries that are reporting highest numbers: Egypt with 6,000 cases, Libya 3,000 cases, Ethiopia 3,000, South Africa 3,000, Morocco 2,000, and Botswana 1,900. In terms of number of deaths over the last week, a total of 1,322 new deaths have been reported across the continent, compared to the previous week where we reported 1,550 new deaths. So this represents a 15% average decrease of new deaths compared to the previous week. If we now look at the 4 weeks trend, a period of spanning between 27th September and 24th of October, we have the following observation: 20% average decrease in new cases. And with the exception of Central Africa, where we have observed a 7% average increase, we are really pleased to see that there is consistency in decreases over the remaining regions. 25% decrease in Southern Africa, 22% decrease in East Africa, 20% decrease in West Africa, and 15% decrease in North Africa. If we now look at the deaths, again, during the same period, we observed that an average of 16% average decrease of deaths have occurred. And the situation is not as homogeneous as the new cases there, because we have Nigeria with an average of 66% increase in deaths, Egypt 36% average increase, Ethiopia 5% average increase, DRC 91% average decrease, South Africa 30% average decrease, and Kenya 4% average decrease. In terms of testing, cumulatively, the continent has conducted, as of today, about 76 million COVID tests. And last week alone, about 857,000 new tests were reported across the continent. That represents a decrease compared to the previous week, because the previous week we were at around 1,090,000 tests. The case positivity rate remains high at 11.1%. And the test ratio is around 9. There is the test per case ratio is around 9. So let me now segue to the area of vaccines. As we speak, as of the 28th of October, that is today, a total of 275 million doses of vaccines have been procured on the continent. And of that number, 188 million, 0.5 have been administered, which corresponds to 70% of the total supply available. If you look at the people that have been fully vaccinated, and the definition here is individuals that have received 2 doses of the vaccines or the single dose of Johnson & Johnson, it represents 5.58% of the total population with full vaccination. So I think we continue to make little progress there, but the overall numbers of 275 million doses acquired with 188 million, which is 70%, means that if the vaccines are available, we'll definitely be able to use the vaccines. I'm very delighted to, as always, to see that some countries are distinguishing themselves. The likes of Morocco has now fully vaccinated 57.23% of its population. If the continental target is 60%, which we set last year, and Morocco is around 57%, it means they are very, very close to achieving that target. And hopefully they will exceed that target and aim to reach the new target, which was established by WHO at 70%. Egypt is around 7.5% of the population fully vaccinated, South Africa 18%, Algeria 9.5%, and Tunisia is around 28%. Let me just conclude this briefing by giving you an update on the AVAD delivery, which we are very excited. I will not expand on that a lot because if you recall last Tuesday, just this past Tuesday, we had a very special briefing on the AVAD briefing. But let me just recall for you what is the current situation. In the past week, the AVAD, that is the African Vaccine Acquisition Task Team, has delivered 4.8 million doses of Johnson & Johnson to 10 countries. And they include Mozambique, 600,000, Kenya, 500,000, Egypt, 1 million, Botswana, 208,000, Lesotho, 151,000, DRC, 756,000 doses, Burkina Faso, 151,000 doses, Ghana, 576, Angola, 300,000, and Sierra Leone, 132,000. So if you combine that number with the other numbers there, it gives you a total for the continent of about 11.5 million doses of vaccines that the AVAD mechanisms had provided. If you now combine that to the 580,000 doses of vaccines that we have shipped to the 6 Caribbean countries, then the total delivery from Harvard stands at 12,100,000 doses, 12,100,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines. So just as we speak, just to conclude in the area of vaccines, as we speak, we are in a workshop now, now with several partners that were successful in the MasterCard Foundation request for proposals to help us with the vaccination so that they can support countries to scale up this vaccination piece. We've always maintained that vaccines must be accompanied by appropriate vaccination. So through the MasterCard Foundation support, we have gathered a large number of partners that are going through an orientation process as we speak. Thank you, Wayne, and over to you.
Thank you very much, John, for that briefing. So colleagues, we've come to the question and answer section. Before we get to that, let me just remind you, or rather inform you, that the briefing today will be 45 minutes long. So we will be finishing at 1:45 East African time instead of 1 o'clock. So those of you who have questions, please start putting them in now so that we can take them in before we get to 12:45 East African time. Thank you so much. Already we have 3 hands that have gone up. And the first one is that of Paul ADEPOJU, who I believe is reporting for Nature. Am I correct, Paul? But in any case, please go ahead with your question.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. So I have 2 questions for Dr. John. The first is a few days ago, I read that Africa crossed the 50,000 genome sequence milestone. So I would like to know what has changed in Africa's gene sequencing plan and accelerating such that the continent will not have to wait that long to sequence another 50,000 genomes. And the other question I have is next week, the COP26 will kick off in Glasgow in the UK, and the health aspect of climate change has always been evident in African countries, especially in areas that continues to be predisposed to emerging and re-emerging infections. And if we look at the One Health approach in Africa, it seems as if it is still not taken as an urgent way of dealing with emerging infections. Instead, countries continue to prioritize quickly accessing vaccines and treatment options. So why do you think Africa's voice has been still silent regarding its health sector's desires from COP26, and what do you think the priority for the continent should be, especially the health sector going into COP26? Thank you very much.
So thank you so much, Paul, for those very 2 insightful questions there. First of all, the genomics. Well, as a continent, we have now made a lot of progress in the right direction. We are not yet there, but we are in the right direction. Just to put this in context, in January and February timeline, as a continent of 1.2 billion people, we had only generated 1,000 genomic sequences for this virus. We then set ourselves a target that through the Africa's CDC Pathogen Genomic Institute, and which is a network of laboratories across the continent, arranged in three levels. Level 1 being the specialized laboratories, some of those from Tulio's group in South Africa and Nigeria with Christian Happy. Then the regional ones like the Pasteur Institutes and the Nigeria CDCs and others, and then national level there. So through this network, ship out material, hardware to about 26 countries over the last couple of months. And we continue to provide large-scale training. As we speak, there are 2 by the Africa CDC. So I think that is why we have crossed that threshold. We actually thought that we were going to cross the 50,000 threshold by December. And when we set ourselves that target, believe me, we thought we were not very sure that we were going to be able to cross the 50,000 target. But here we are with that. So I think it has been a very successful collaboration. And again, As they say, there's always a silver lining in any crisis. Because of this, we are setting up many more laboratories across the continent that will be providing genomic sequencing in real time so that we know how these variants are moving across the continent. But the Africa CDC Pathogen Genomic Institute, which was indeed indeed established prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, has served a very useful purpose here. Now, about the emerging infections, Paul, I think we have been very clear with this, that as a continent, we truly need a new public health order. And we said this before the pandemic, and we are very insistent on this. We have written severally on this. A new public health order that says we should be going into the COP discussion with at least 5 major areas. First of all is our own national public health institutions and regional bodies like the Africa CDC. Period. We believe strongly that there's a lot of power in regionalism, and a lot of evidence is there to show what, by coordinating within the African continent, we've been able to achieve. And if we coordinate that more effectively, then it fits into the overall global architecture. I think we should really take this at heart. So a new public health order calls for, first of all, the strengthening of national public health institutes like the Nigeria CDC, the Ethiopian Public Health Institute. Together, they work as a network with the Africa CDC to provide you with that architecture to fight diseases, emerging infectious diseases. Second is manufacturing regionally, both diagnostics, vaccines, and pharmaceutical. As you may know, or you may not, as a continent of 1.2 billion people, we do conduct about 100 million tests every year for HIV. But yet there is no company in Africa that produces one single rapid test for HIV. That has to change. That is what the continent needs to do. Thirdly, our workforce development. A public health workforce development is so important. And we hope that those are things that the continent will embrace and move forward. Fourthly is our own domestic financing for health. We have to go back to the Abuja Declaration and honor those declarations and say, look, we committed ourselves at the highest level that we engage or allocate about 15% of our own domestic financing to health priorities there. Would that solve all the problems? No, but at least it provides you with a foundation on which to leverage other donor funding there. And lastly, what we are calling respectful partnership. Partnerships that will align with the vision of the Africa CDC as the continental body for a political organization, which is the African Union. Partnership that will look at Agenda 2063 and respect that and echo that in global platforms. Only Africans and Africans alone can echo their own positions in the global platform. I don't expect that somebody else will champion our own position in those the COP discussions there. So as a collective, if we go in there and we argue for these things that are just outlined, then we are preparing the continent for effectively to fight pandemics more effectively, which, as all of us have said, it is a question of time before the next pandemic hit. And there's nothing that says that we must fight this pandemic and get it over before the next pandemic hits us.
All right, thank you very much, John. Talking about pandemics, Judith Akolo, who is with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, has this question. She says, is what is most feared now happening? And by that, she's referring to the point or the possible fact that COVID-19 is now endemic in Africa. Then she asks, if that is the case, does Africa have the capacity to deal with the disease if it has become endemic?
I think we have to live with the fact that it will take us much longer to control COVID on the continent than we previously thought, because of the very limited rates of vaccination that we are experiencing. You just heard me share the number with you. A continent of 1.2 billion has successfully only administered 5 vaccines to about 5.5% of its population. So I think that is not boding well for controlling and eliminating the virus. I think we are getting at the age where elimination or effective control of the virus will become more challenging because of the slow pace at which vaccinations are occurring in Africa. if you recall, Judith, I did warn this even several months ago. We warned against this attitude. We warned against this behavior, and here we are with this. So if you look at the epidemiology curve, we are now coming down slowly, steadily, but in the next 2 months or so, I would not be surprised that we are back up, okay? Because that is what we are seeing. We are seeing that each time we go up, then we go back up the peak. So because of this, the ups and downs of the peak and the trough, the virus continues to seed itself and win in this battle. So I think, are we yet at a point that we can say it is? We can do something, that we can accelerate our efforts through AVAT, through COVAX mechanism, and really try to collectively set these targets and achieve them, which is try to immunize at least 70% of the population by the end of next year, so that we have a chance of avoiding that this pandemic gets into endemicity fully. Will Africa have the means to sustain an endemic condition? Absolutely, we are challenged. We are already challenged with another pandemic that is ongoing, which is the HIV and HIV/AIDS pandemic, tuberculosis, malaria, the emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases, and Paul mentioned this nicely, and of course, the rising tides of the non-communicable diseases. So I think it is in nobody's interest to see this kind of a disruptive pandemic be sustained. Okay, it's this. There are pandemics and pandemics. The HIV is a silent pandemic. It is not as disruptive as the COVID-19. COVID-19 is extremely disruptive, has serious economic implications, has serious security implications, and have serious health implications. So that's why from the onset, we have been very, very loud and clear about the danger and the risk for the continent for not getting appropriate access to vaccines, so that we can vaccinate quickly and come out of this quickly.
All right, thank you very much. We go back online and say hello to Gabriele Steinha, who is with the Wall Street Journal. Gabriele, please go ahead with your question.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm still trying to understand the AVAT J&J deliveries. So according to the slides that Mr. Masiwa shared in August, AVAT should have received at this point 27 million doses of J&J vaccines, and then you're saying that it's received just over 12. So I'm wondering what is the reason for the shortfall, and what is J&J telling you about why it's not keeping up with the pace that was agreed apparently, or were the numbers that were in the August presentation somehow too optimistic? And how much leeway is there in the contracts for delays in delivery? And then finally, Mr. Masiwa also said that the goal or the sort of target for the end of the year was 50 million doses, but then you have previously said it's 35. So I'm just trying to understand the difference between those two figures and which one is the one that we should be looking at.
So you're absolutely right, Gabrielle. I think you just heard me give you some numbers for the last week delivery. So I think let's wait and see what will, Mr. Masiwa deals directly with the chief negotiator with this, the Johnson & Johnson. But the numbers, as you already said, keep changing based on the availability of the vaccines then. So let's see what will happen next week. I think this week, as I just indicated, last week, I beg your pardon, 4.8 million doses of vaccines were shipped to these countries, to 10 countries. Shipment continues as we speak. So let's see what by the end of November, what will be. I think the optimistic view, at least which we are informed, but for Africa CDC is informed, is that by the end of November, we are expecting to have the 35 million doses of vaccines. Much more could happen where the pipeline continues to be exciting, which means that more vaccines are available. Then they will all get to that 50,000 number. But what we know, what we have been provided with a source of information, is that by the end of November, we're aiming at that 35 million doses of vaccines cumulatively that will be delivered. So let's see what the next couple of weeks will look like. Some of these vaccine delivery challenges are not at the level of us. It's the level of the supplier, the Johnson & Johnson, in terms of the manufacturing capacity. Remember that all of these vaccines are coming from South Africa, the Aspen group in South Africa. I think that is, you might actually be seeing us take a more conservative approach, and Mr. Masiwa takes a more aggressive approach in terms of the 50,000 numbers. If they get there, we'll only be happy that, I mean, more vaccines are available.
All right, thank you. Hello, Sarah. Sara Jerving from DevEx. Please go ahead with your question.
Thank you very much. I'm wondering if you can please discuss access to syringes and how that is impacting the vaccine rollouts. And then can you also tell us how much each Moderna dose is costing the AU, and did Africa Exim Bank put up that upfront financing? And then finally, do you have any updates on the timeline to your nomination to PEPFAR? Thank you.
No, so the Moderna pricing, I don't recall. I think I have been explained that by Mr. Masiwa, but I don't have it offhand. I'm reluctant to quote a number that would not be exact. But if you want that, Sarah, after this call, I can check again with Mr. Masiwa's office and get back to you with the exact number of what that vaccine will look like, the cost of that vaccine will look like. As you heard on Tuesday, the MasterCard Foundation has opted to support the acquisition of those extra doses of vaccines. There is some part of that. We are very excited with that. We have to look for additional financing from, I believe, underwriting from Afri-Exim Bank to make sure that you get the right amount of money. Remember, these are not donations from the US government. It was shifting order of delivery so that we can access that for the market for the Moderna vaccines. So I don't know what the first question was. If you don't mind repeating that, Sarah.
Sure. The other question was, can you discuss access to syringes and how that is impacting vaccines?
Oh yeah, no, access to syringes, as I mean, anything that you don't manufacture on the continent is always a challenge to get, and that is why we, from the MasterCard Foundation partnership, are factoring in that. I mean, we will be allocating a large sum of money through either UNICEF or the World Food Program to acquire those what we call them vaccination accessories to support the vaccination. So it is expected that countries are going through those challenges, and because of the speed and scale at which those syringes are needed. So, but I don't recall that. I'm not recalling doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Countries that have stopped vaccinating completely because of lack of syringes on that. The last question on the timing of nomination, I don't know. I mean, I keep working with the U.S. government and the State Department and Senate until a time that it will go to the floor for discussion. So I don't know, but progress is being made every week and every day.
Thank you very much, John. We have a question from Kara Anna, who is with Associated Press. Kara says, is there any request that the Africa CDC has for global leaders ahead of the COP26 climate meeting?
The request is what Paul said before, that climate change will affect, everybody knows that climate change is going to affect African countries even more than countries that actually generate a lot of the issues that are affecting climate, that is global warming issues. And that, of course, is tightly linked to disease outcomes. And our call is always that global cooperation and solidarity is important, and that disease threats must be discussed, must be central to the climate change discussion that will take place in the coming days. So I think, which is what I said earlier, let's make sure that as much as we support global approaches, that regional instruments are strengthened, because it is through these regional instruments that you work closely with the population that are in the regions, and that will feed into the global architecture. So my message to the COP is disease threat is truly a challenge in Africa, and part of that is linked directly to climate change.
Thank you, colleagues. As I said, our briefing today is 45 minutes long. So if you have a question that you want to put through, please do utilize that WhatsApp number, and it is +251 94 550 2310. Alternatively, you can come through live or post your question on the question and answer section. Let's move on now and say hello to Elizabeth Merab. And Elizabeth is with the Nation Africa in Nairobi in Kenya. Hello, Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Hi, Winnie, thank you for the opportunity. I hope I'm clear enough. I have two questions. The first one is on the Moderna announcement for the fill and finish manufacturing plant that they intend to set up in Africa. Is there an update on that? And secondly, yesterday, Merck Pharmaceutical announced a royalty-free license for the molnupiravir drug. Could we get a reaction from the director on this? And then finally, is a question on the AY.4.2 variant. Has it been detected anywhere in Africa, and does it worry you as Africa CDC? Thank you.
So thank you, Elizabeth. The variant issue is worrying at any rate. I think we remember that variant is a lineage of the Delta variant. So we'll continue to use our pathogen genomic network to track that and see how it's evolving. There's no doubt that as given how quickly this virus transmits, that you see this variant or this lineage emerge even very quickly. And we've said this all the time, that the more we delay in scaling up our vaccines, many more variants will emerge. And we are seeing this clearly, that it's standard biology. The viruses have to survive. The way they survive is to escape. And then, of course, some of them will survive and some will continue to become fitter. With the Merck announcement for the new drug, it is welcome news. I mean, we greet that news, and that is what it should look like in a pandemic. That is, for me, a symbol of true solidarity and cooperation in times of pandemic. I think we are very pleased to hear that Merck has taken that move, is taking that position. With Moderna manufacturing, you heard from the news in Kigali just this past week. Very good news that they will start. The agreements were signed actually, and production will start mid next year in, I think, Senegal and Rwanda. Very, very encouraging. I think that is all part of the partnership to advance vaccine manufacturing in Africa that we have been promoting. So we are very, very encouraged. We have been working with BioNTech and KINUP, that is the intermediary working with BioNTech, over the last couple of months to facilitate those discussions. And I'm very pleased to see that it's taking shape concretely in Rwanda and in Senegal. And many other countries will be engaged as well. I think you are all aware that KINUP, which is a group facilitating on behalf of BioNTech, has been to South Africa and to Egypt as well. So very good progress, and we should celebrate every little move that we see in the right direction in terms of solving this pandemic.
Thank you so much. We say hello now to Dudu Zile Ramela, and Dudu is with the Newsroom Africa based in South Africa. She says, how much of a concern is vaccine hesitancy? In South Africa, hesitancy is high, and she wants to know, is that the case for the rest of the continent?
Absolutely not the case in the rest of the continent. I can assure you that. We are a very heterogeneous continent of 55 member states with very different different levels of health systems, different cultures. And I can give you so many countries that vaccine hesitancy is not an issue there. I just gave you the numbers in Morocco. I've been there first time to see what is happening in Morocco. You have seen Tunisia. So many countries are really moving on. But are there countries that are lagging behind that you see vaccine hesitancy? Of course, there are countries that I've not seen the situation or the data in South Africa to enable me make an informed statement on that. But you can imagine that countries are different, or even communities within countries are different, and that is why community engagement is so critical. It's so critical for us to keep mobilizing the population. And vaccine hesitancy, I must say, is not static. I mean, we have an experience that working in Cameroon just last couple of weeks, we have seen where if you engage the religious leaders who went to the churches and the mosques and engaged with them, and after prayer groups or the church, the sermons, the large number of worshippers were out there queuing to get their vaccine. So it is not static. It's the way we communicate with the community. And if people see that people have received vaccines and they are not falling sick and it's not hurting them, that number will only increase there. So each time there's bad publicity around a vaccine hesitancy increase, but it doesn't increase exponentially and stay up there. It comes down, people see that others are benefiting from vaccine. My message to everyone on the continent is go out and get your vaccines. These vaccines are safe. These vaccines are efficacious. They are saving lives. Let's maintain that contract, which I have called on, characterizing it as a social contract, which means protecting myself means I protect my community, protect my loved one, and protect my nation.
All right, thank you. I think we'll take the two last questions. One is from Bonisile Makubu and the other one is from Mario Baptista. So let's start with the question from Bonisile, and she's with the Times of Eswatini. She says, is Africa on track in meeting the December target of reaching 40% of the population in immunization?
Unfortunately, I'm not very optimistic that we will be able to reach that target in December. December is only depending on what period of December. If you look at end of December, then you can actually say we are only 2 months to that. And if we are 2 months to the end of December and we are at 5% now, I don't know how we can very quickly get to 40% there. I think that is unfortunate. But let's see what the next couple of months will look like. The COVAX mechanism may deliver more vaccines. The arrangements we are currently doing with Moderna and with the Johnson & Johnson may deliver more vaccines, and we just don't know. But again, the math is very clear. We are at 5% today. How do we get to increase that by 35% to get to 40% by the end of December? It becomes an uphill task.
All right. Our final question is from Mario Baptista, who is with Lusa News Agency. Could you explain how Cabo Verde managed to have almost 80% of their population vaccinated, and what lessons could be drawn from this for other African countries?
I think, let me start with the lessons piece there. We are all a learning institution. I mean, and any country that has made progress, we are curious to learn from what they have done. And there are countries like, I didn't put all countries there in that list. Maybe in the next briefing, we should put the numbers of countries that are making that kind of progress, like Mauritius, Seychelles, Cape Verde. So the population size is also important. If the country has a small population size, like Seychelles, Mauritius, they can very easily do a vast campaign of vaccination and get to those high numbers. But if you're dealing with a country like Nigeria with 200 million or so, it's a very different ballgame to get to that 80% vaccination. But congratulations to Cape Verde for the remarkable work they have done. And we should be able to share lessons from them and learn from what they have done to get to at least more than 80% of the population vaccinated.
Thank you very much, John. We have a late question, but you've already answered it. But I have to acknowledge that we have received a question about reaching the 40% target in December, and what can be done to make sure that we have citizens getting vaccinated within that time frame. But you have already addressed that issue. But thank you very much, Halima Atumani, for coming in from the VOA in Uganda. Thank you so much. So Dr. John, now it's time for you to give us your main wrap-up points for today.
So I think, let me perhaps just use the comments from our friend from Uganda to conclude, which is, it is everybody's responsibility to make sure that we get these vaccines into the arms, so that when the vaccines arrive, as you can see, they are arriving now almost in a predictable fashion, they should get into the arms of our population. And that requires everybody's effort, okay, to mobilize the community. I think we need to build trust with the community, and we need to make sure that every voice matters in the community, which is you as the media, we the public health experts, and the politicians. We all have to play our role so that the population gets vaccinated. It's the only way, I believe, that we will be able to come out of this pandemic. I think that is really my key message for this briefing today. And for Gabriele, if you can send me an email, I would be very happy to forward that to Mr. Masiwa's office and our colleagues from the Afri-Exim Bank, so that we can reconcile all those numbers. And with all the projections, we'll be happy to turn that around very quickly. And I did promise, I think it was Sarah Oka, I will be sending you the Moderna pricing. I think in the comment, my team is taking note of that, and we'll be happy to share that as we learn it. We just want to be sure that it is exact, not to give you a number that we walk away from the number subsequently. Thank you, Win.
Thank you very much. That was Dr. John Nkengasong, who is the director of the Africa CDC. Let me thank you, colleagues, as usual, for joining us and for staying the course with information and dissemination of accurate information on the COVID-19 situation in Africa. We will be doing this again next week on Thursday at the same time. So until then, have a great week.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.